LIV Golf. I think it's time to segue. So there's been a few rumors. There is one confirmed. So I think we talked about the confirmed David Feherty.
Correct.
Which is a pretty big deal. Like, that's a big get.
This is where I think the whole LIV situation gets even more enticing for everybody, and for golfers, for consumers. Is, part of the reason why I didn't like the first two broadcasts right away is, they're not the same familiar voices that you've heard time and time again.
Yeah.
But you get David Feherty over there, count me in. I like David Feherty a lot. I've been a big fan of him. I know people either like him or they don't. Yeah, I love David. I can listen to him talk golf all day.
And it'll be more entertaining. And I'm hoping he has a little more freedom to say what he wants. Like, we've grown up in all, not just golf, but all sports. Like, broadcasters don't say swear. They don't swear. They don't. Other than the color commentator, they typically don't say it how it is. They just are buddy with everyone.
Right.
I really hope he is more like he was on his show with NBC than maybe just like a normal PGA Tour broadcast. So we'll see. I really hope he can be very creative for it. Big get though for LIV. Look, I'm done kind of talking. I think we're done, you and I, belaboring the fact of like the whole blood money thing and the Saudi, because I think like we're just harping on something that for the most part is, we don't need to keep talking about that.
Correct. And to your point, and this is where I want to give you the most credit in the entire world right now, and I've been thinking about this for 2 days, and I want to save it, for the show, is I believe the first or second episode that we recorded, you came out and said, you're like, I don't think the rest of the world looks at LIV Golf the way the Americans are, and the way it's being pushed on, the American society and stuff like that.
Because of our relationship with Saudis.
Correct. And obviously you go back to the 9/11 thing and the political stuff behind that. But like somebody that is from Australia, somebody that's from Europe, like they're not going to look at it from that standpoint. They're not going to sit there and say like, oh, well, they did 9/11 to another country. Because if we were in that position, if we were looking at something that happened in Australia like that, like there could have been something that happened. Now, I'm ignorant to the fact. I don't even know if something major has happened like that over there.
So we're going to have our own nationalistic point of views on the thing.
Right.
But yeah, I just think like harping on the blood, like the whole, I'm over talking about that. We can talk about the separation, how that's going to impact the world of golf and all that stuff moving forward. But I think David Feherty for them as a whole, don't know what his role is. Is he going to be an on-course reporter? Is he going to be color commentator? Like, big get. I don't know.
Huge get.
I haven't seen what
I haven't seen any dollar amount yet. But if I was a betting person, I would. The way they throw money, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 10, 15, $20 million deal.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
at least. I mean, you look at what some of these guys in like football are getting over here. Tony Romo got a $17 million a year deal. Like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. So people are starting to realize like analysts are part of like why we consume sports.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what. So like I'm sure. It'll be an interesting product. I hope he has some say in like, hey, let's try to do this, let's try to do that. Just from like how they're gonna, show it for us and stuff. So we'll see. That'll be interesting.
I would imagine they're gonna kind of go back to him of like what they could do better and what they should do different. And now I think an interesting factor in all of this too is Charles Barkley has been very vocal about.
Yeah, he said they approached him,
and he's in talk. It sounds like he's in talks to be some type of analyst or color commentator with him. And if you get a guy like. I've always said the TNT NBA on TNT
phenomenal
is the best. You don't even have to watch basketball. There would be some days I would just go tune into the halftime show just because of how entertaining Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie Johnson were. So if you get Charles Barkley involved with David Feherty, like we've said it here before, I think the PGA Tour is in big trouble.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I think talking about some of the players who have now been reported, I mean, I haven't like actually seen a confirmation for this yet, but late after that day, it's been rumored for a while now. But it basically was tweeted like expected to join LIV now is Henrik Stenson,
correct?
Who is I think the 2016 Open champion, the current Ryder Cup captain for this next Ryder Cup next year. So obviously he'll lose that. But that one sounds like it's imminent. We haven't officially seen it, but basically everywhere says like it's going to be that. And then there was a report that came out that said Leishman, Adam Scott, and Cam Smith are poised to join LIV Golf. And I've read that Cam Smith at one point had 90 million. Then I also saw 110 million. If I was him and I was maybe going to do it, I would ask for more money after winning because he's going to be their poster child for the most part.
Yeah.
Now I also heard today that they're probably waiting until after the President's Cup to do that. So a few moving parts there. Hideki Matsuyama was another player who's rumored. I heard $350 million, which is like wild. But obviously,
you take an entire
about the world market.
Yeah,
so,
you take an entire market away from the PGA Tour.
So, and look, like, what are they doing? They're going and getting a lot of these international players. So it belabors the fact of like, yes, we're gonna have our own perception of it, but internationally, I think there's a different perception. And is it going to be something to tune into right away? Is team golf going to be something exciting? I think so. I just think they're still figuring out those kinks, and it'll take a little bit. But I know you want to talk about. You said the PGA Tour's got some issues, and there's some concerns. So, like, obviously, the floor is yours to kind of explain.
I mean, it's kind of been the argument that people have talked about. Like, the casual fan only cares about the 4 events of the year, maybe 5 if you call it, with the Players, the Masters, and all the majors, right? And then you get your Ryder Cup that people love. I wouldn't even say people love the President's Cup as much, but you get those events, and that's essentially all the people sit there and care about, right? So, I actually sat down with my buddy last night, who's not a big golfer or anything like that. He watches the majors, and that's about it. And he's all about LIV Golf. I've talked to a lot of people that are just kind of casual golf fans, and they're all about the LIV Golf. They think it's unique. They like the team aspect from it. And I think essentially we've talked about Americanizing some things around here, and people may call this a dumb idea, but I think this is gonna have to be the route of the PGA Tour. I think essentially you start having owners to teams. Like, you bring in guys that, like, you have a Detroit team or whatever you want to call it. Like, this is just kind of my thoughts early on, is you come in, you have owners to teams, and the owners report back to the PGA Tour, and then the owners decide what they want to pay their players. Like, you have a big ass draft, and obviously this is all speculation. This is craziness, but this is the only way I think the PGA Tour can compete with the salaries that these guys are going to get paid from LIV Golf. You look at, like, I look at the MLB, for example. You look at NBA. These owners are paying players $250 million over the course of a 6 or 7 year deal, and that's essentially what the motto is over at LIV Golf. And I think in order to get guaranteed money is, I think anybody, you would take guaranteed money. I would take guaranteed money. I went and looked at the earnings list for this year for the PGA Tour. And
I did this, yeah.
And we looked at, I believe the top earner on tour is Cam Smith.
It was Scottie Scheffler.
Scottie Scheffler, yep. And then Cam Smith is right behind him in second.
And not by a lot, or it was by a lot, excuse me.
Yeah, because
that was before the Open.
Correct.
So it changed.
So Scheffler, I believe, to year to date is right around the $13 million to $15 million.
13.
Yeah. This was before the Open, too.
Yeah, so the Open dollars.
So let's say Scottie Scheffler goes on to win. He's won at 4 events this year, too. So let's say he goes on and wins the FedEx Cup. That's another $18 million on top of that. Plus, he's probably won a few. So he's probably would bring home close to right around $32 to $35 million for the year. Bryson DeChambeau just signed, what, $150 million with LIV Golf?
Something like, or it's 100 or something.
And that's probably a couple-year deal. My guess is a 3-4 year deal. So let's say you call it a 4-year deal. He's making what? I'm not the best math guy in the world, but 150 divided by 4, that's...
I mean, it's just $37.5.
$37.5 million a year?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's... Plus, you get to go make... If let's say you're Scottie Scheffler, you win 4 events on the year, because eventually they're going to get to 24 events. That's another $20 million in your pocket.
No, at least. I mean, you win 4... Yeah, I mean, it's... The money in golf, there's a lot. Just in general, and now, like, obviously they can't compete with these different types.
And Jay Monahan has said that. He's like, we cannot compete with the monetary money that is being thrown around to these guys.
But now, like, you talked about Scottie Scheffler, who's first on the money list, who's having the best year, and he like, I say only in a sense of like what other guys are making. He's only making $13 million this year. I go to 10th on the list. It's Hideki Matsuyama. He's played in 18 events. He's earned $5.7 million. The rumor was $350 million. Now, like, that's not a good example because of like where his situation is and everything like that. But like, let's just think of the 10th guy and maybe getting a deal within the US, like $5 million or $6 million. Wow, it's a lot, man. Getting guaranteed $25 million or something, or even $15 million a year, like that's more. Plus, on top, you have these events. You're right. So like, I do like this idea nowadays, the whole Americanization of like, let's bring in sports owners, like whether it's like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or stuff like that. They'd have to figure out that selection process. I think the challenge I'd have with it is how are you going to somehow parlay that? Like, are you going to build it into the PGA Tour schedule and you're going to have teams on top similar to what they're doing? Or do you have like just a team series in the fall for like, you know, you have your fall series for guys who aren't in it, but then like, and that's like, look, we're speculating a ton. Like we could go on a full hour-long rant about this. But I do think, like there's something they need to be done. And like they had that announcement, they had the things that they're talking about, trying to get more younger players involved at some point and figuring out those avenues because they're going to keep losing. But like it still is not going to be enough. And these guys are going and they're gonna, and like everyone talks about, well, it's a bunch of has-beens. Like, is it? Like, I mean, DJ T6, DeChambeau T8, Adam Scott, who's rumored top 20, Cam Smith just won the Open. Like, it was maybe at first, but like, the more they get, the less it is just has-beens.
Yeah.